Hello everybody, this is my Pioneer and Superstar project. My name is Craig Conklin.
For my Pioneer, I decided to do Jenny Finch. She was a softball pitcher. She attended the University of Arizona in 2001, which was her senior year at University of Arizona. She was 32-0 with an ERA of .54. In 2004, she played on the U.S. Summer Olympics team, and they received a gold medal, and the games were held in Athens, Greece. In 2008, during the Summer Olympics, the USA national softball team won the silver medal in Beijing, China, and she currently still runs a summer camp, which is run by herself and her former NCAA teammates and Olympic teammates. For my superstar, I chose Coco Gauff. She is a 15-year-old tennis phenom. Over the summer, she competed in the tennis tournament Wimbledon, and she won 3 matches, including beating 5-time champion Venus Williams, and she made it to the 4th round of the tournament. With her success of the tournament, she won a total of $139,000 during the tournament.
My cousin Jessica Maslia is my interviewee. She played Division II lacrosse at the University of New Haven, and she holds the school record for most assists in her career. She is a 3-time all-conference player in college. She played 3 sports in high school: lacrosse, basketball, and soccer. She played lacrosse for the first time in 7th grade, and in 8th grade she made her high school varsity team, and she is currently coaching lacrosse at Hopkins Academy. Jessica's sport history includes playing lacrosse since 7th grade and playing basketball and soccer ever since she could walk, and has been involved in sports for about 25 years. Jessica's first opportunity with lacrosse came very late compared to other collegiate athletes. She thanked her twin brother for pushing her to play lacrosse, and she fell in love with the game ever since the first time she played it because of how fast-paced it is. Jessica's most impressive stat is holding the school record for assists in her career. She also has the most goals and points in a single game in her school history. Jessica thanked her teammates and coaches for making it possible for her to set these milestones. Jessica also is in 2nd place for all-time points at her university and was her team's MVP her senior year. She talked about how special it was for her to score the game-winning goal in the NCAA tournament to send her team to the next round. One thing Jessica would go back and change would be her junior year in high school when she tore her ACL while playing soccer. This incident ended Jessica's soccer career and was the first sport that she ever fell in love with. She later said that she believes everything happens for a reason, but said that if she didn't tear her ACL, she believes she would have gotten a D1 scholarship, but she is thankful for the opportunity that University of New Haven gave her. Jessica made it very clear that she was thankful for her father and brother for always pushing her to become the best athlete and best woman she could possibly be. She was doubted by a lot of people that she wouldn't be successful playing lacrosse in college because of her size, but she used her size to her advantage. From her sophomore year to her senior year, she was face guarded every single game because of how much of a threat she was to score at all points in the game. Another opportunity Jessica was thankful for was growing up on Long Island because of the exposure she received to get a full ride in college. Now that Jessica is done playing lacrosse, she is currently a coach at a high school in Connecticut. She is able to educate and develop high school athletes using all her past knowledge she has in the game. While in high school, Jessica had 2 different head coaches, and in college had 5 total coaches. So she's able to use all the knowledge that she gained from these 7 individuals to now educate others. One very common theme for women athletes was that no one cared about their performance as women athletes, and they only cared about their looks. Another theme I will be talking about is how women were held to extremely low standards in sport and were not given the opportunity to prove that women could be excellent athletes. One example of this was in the Dare to Compete video about the 1928 Olympic Games in Amsterdam. For the first time ever, the 800-meter event was held for women, and 9 runners took part in the race. During this time period, almost all men were not fans of the event taking place because they thought that running was very unhealthy for women, but the event still happened. All 9 runners completed the race, but once the race was over, because the runners were so exhausted, they lied down on the grass next to the track. The announcer of the event claimed that runners were, quote, falling like dominoes, and he also said that only 7 of the 9 runners finished the event, which was extremely incorrect. All three people who received medals broke the previous world record for the 800-meter sprint. Even though the three female runners broke the world record for the 800-meter, the event was taken out of future Olympic Games due to health problems. Because the women who competed in the race looked bad and were tired after exerting themselves so much to be successful in the race, the event was banned from future Olympic Games. No one cared about the world record being broken because it was broken by women. I'm sure if these runners took their time and completed the race and looked fine after the race, it would have never been banned. Another example of this theme is in the reading What Shall We Wear for Tennis? The article talks about the history of clothes that women had to wear while playing the game of tennis. A few quotes stood out to me while I was doing this reading. Quote, women players suffered only the slightest handicap of having to hold up their trans of their long, dragging skirts. They were not expected to actually run for the ball. This quote shows that people really did not care about how female tennis players actually played the game, but only cared about how they looked while playing the game. I can only imagine how playing in long, heavy dresses limited their ability to play the game. Another quote that stood out to me was, quote, by the end of the 1920s, fashion designers began to advocate lengthening women's hemlines, but it was plainly absurd to reintroduce long skirts in what had now become a strenuous game. The increased strenuous encouraged not only shorter garments, but also the liberation of stockings. This took almost 50 years for people to realize that females can perform better while not wearing incredibly heavy and long dresses while playing tennis. After this, females were still required to wear dresses, but they were just much shorter than before. As explained in the article, 8 times women in sports fought for equality, the article talks about how women were not allowed to run in the Boston Marathon. Quote, experts claimed for years that distance running would damage a woman's health and femininity. In 1967, women were not allowed to officially enter the Boston Marathon, so Kathrine Switzer entered that year's marathon under the name K.V. Switzer to hide her gender. This quote shows that people did not care if women could compete in running a marathon and would not let them to do so to prove so. During the race, an officer tried to tackle her to not let her complete the race. She was able to get past the officer and completed the race. This proved to numerous people that women can in fact complete marathons, but they were not allowed to run in the Boston Marathons until 5 years later in 1972. On this slide on the left, you can see a picture of Kathrine Switzer wearing the uniform number 261, and in the middle is a picture of a typical outfit for a tennis player in the 1900s, and on the right is a picture during the 1928 Summer Olympics during the 800-meter sprint.
One scholarly article I read was titled Jennie Finch's Higher Standards. The article talked about struggles Jennie Finch faced in her whole life while being such an attractive woman, but also being such a phenomenal softball player. The article states that Finch won the award, the Hottest Woman of the Year, in 2003. Later that year, Finch was offered to pose for a nude for Playboy. Finch responded, quote, I don't feel like there are any pros to posing nude. Finch later was quoted saying, quote, no amount of money could influence me. My morals and standards come first. I am here to be a role model for young girls and show them what really counts. These two quotes from Jennie Finch I find insane. She is debatably one of the best softball players to ever play the game, and people are asking her to do something extremely uncalled for and way out of her standards. The article surprised me tremendously because of how relatively modern this article was and how recently Jennie Finch came to fame. All of this happened in 2003, and I would expect something like this to happen in the early 1900s, not the early 2000s. Finch later said, quote, I don't train for my looks. It is not my goal for Jennie Finch to be a household name. My goal is to win the gold medal. This just shows that Jennie Finch cares more about her performance on the field versus her looks, and it's disgusting that she has to come out and address a topic like this.
Another scholarly article I read was from the book called Beauty and the Beast and the chapter called Perception of Beauty for Female Athletes. This chapter in the book talks about 3 different people who played 2 different sports in 3 different time periods, in the 1980s, the 1990s, and the 2000s, and their experiences while playing their sports. Nicole played Division I basketball in the 2000s, Heather played basketball in the 1990s, and Lisa participated in gymnastics in the 1980s. Like I just mentioned, Nicole played Division I basketball for 4 years. After her freshman year, she received very few minutes on the court, and after the season, went up to her coach asking what she can do to increase her minutes for the following season. The coach responded saying that she needs to lose weight and get into better shape to increase her minutes for her sophomore season. Nicole mentioned in the reading about how weight is everything while playing basketball. You cannot weigh too much because then your quickness and speed will suffer, but you can't be too small because you'll get pushed around on the court. She also tells a story of very small females on the team and how they did not enjoy gaining significant amounts of weight during the off-season to look, quote, masculine. So these individuals would put weights in their pockets during the weigh-ins so their coaches would be impressed with their weights. So after Nicole's freshman year, she went on an extremely unhealthy diet to hope to get more time on the court. This diet consisted of skipping numerous meals a day, and sometimes the only thing she would eat or drink would be weight shakes. This terrible habit made Nicole obsessed with her personal image in the way that she looked at herself. After a full off-season of practically starving herself, she received no increase in time on the court while playing for her school. This made Nicole extremely disappointed at first, but then she realized how unhealthy she was treating her body, and there was more than life than playing basketball or playing valuable minutes for a Division I basketball school. Nicole ended the section by being quoted saying, quote, "I have worked hard since these 2 years to change my perception of beauty and not to starve myself and pushing my body to those limits." Quote, like Nicole, Heather also played Division I basketball, but she played in the 1990s. Heather tells a few stories on how she was judged based on her appearance while playing basketball. She had short hair and typically always wore sweatpants and sweatshirts. During her freshman year of college, during winter break, the dorms were closed and everyone had to find a new place to stay while the dorms were closed. Heather was lucky enough to have one of her teammates on the basketball team let her stay at her off-campus house. On the first night of being at her teammate's house, her teammate and her girlfriend got too drunk and tried to convince Heather to get involved with the two of them having sex. Heather respectfully declined the offer, and the teammate and her girl kept nagging her to get involved. Finally, the teammate said, quote, "Why don't you want to? We all know you're gay too." Heather ended up spending the night in the car. The next morning at practice, Heather went up to one of her coaches and requested to find a new place to stay for the break. When she told the coach what happened the night before, the coach was very confused and acted shocked to hear that Heather was in fact not homosexual based on her appearance. Heather had short hair because it was more comfortable and easier to maintain for her while she was playing basketball. She also wore sweatpants and sweatshirts because of how comfortable they were. Heather never cared about what her physical appearance looked like. All she cared about is her performance on the basketball field and in the classroom. Heather was judged by not only her coaches, but also by her teammates on her physical appearance. Lisa was a high school gymnastics athlete in the 1980s. She was 5'2", with a very athletic build, especially her lower body. While in high school, Lisa often heard people around her talking about how masculine her legs looked. She remembers one time, while wearing a skirt, someone said her calves looked like the calves of an adolescent male. Lisa also remembers another time in high school when someone asked her if she ever took pills which made her shorter and smaller. As time passed, Lisa reached the age where she needed to attend a bigger gym with better trainers to increase her potential to continue her gymnastics career past high school. She tried to get into the elite level gym, but she was not allowed to train there because of how masculine she looked and because her hair in a ponytail was not very attractive. The new gym didn't even look at Lisa's practice, they just judged her based on her appearance. Lisa was very disappointed about the negative news from the gym and her peers that she decided to never partake in gymnastics anymore. She ended her own career in gymnastics even though she was very talented in the sport. After deciding to end playing gymnastics, Lisa decided to partake in track and field, where she can use her physical build as an advantage to compete as a runner. She currently runs to this day. This example is very disappointing because it takes away a talented person out of the sport of gymnastics. I believe that women are given the opportunity to prove themselves as athletes today, not just based on their looks. My interviewee Jessica and Jenny Finch grew up in similar time periods than when Coco Gauff grew up. A major difference between Coco Gauff, Jenny Finch, and Jessica Mazia are their experiences while playing youth sports. Coco Gauff is 15 years old and playing at the highest level of sports, and Jessica started playing lacrosse for the first time at 12. Jenny Finch played youth sports, high school sports, and college level softball. Another difference is the early level of specialization Coco Gauff versus Jenny Finch and Jessica had. Jessica and Jenny Finch both played 3 different sports in high school and were extremely involved in the other sports. Coco Gauff was homeschooled her entire life and stopped going to school in 2012 to focus on becoming a professional tennis player. Coco Gauff, with an interview with Robin Roberts, said that she practiced for at least 4 hours a day of tennis, and I doubt Jenny Finch and Jessica practiced for that long at such a young age. One similarity between Jenny Finch and my cousin Jessica is that they both struggled with being heavier while being a youth athlete. As both of them grew older, they learned how to manage their weight. Here's a video of Jenny Finch as she talks about her struggles growing up and battling weight.
My name is Jenny Finch, USA Softball gold medalist and a board member of the NPlay Foundation. I'm so excited to be part of NPlay and help encourage young kids to get outside and be active. As a young girl, I had 2 older brothers, and I was a chubby girl growing up. I was on the heavier side, constantly worrying about my weight, knowing I was overweight, and it's not easy being a young girl and being overweight. But here I was, eating unhealthy, drinking soda, eating like my 2 older brothers were eating, which I shouldn't have been doing. And as I got older, I started realizing I need to take care of my body. This is the one thing that I have control over, and that is my body, and I need to put things good inside my body to get what I want out of it and to be the best athlete that I can be. And I'm so excited to be part of this foundation, encouraging young kids to get outside and be active, have fun. Youth sports plays such an important role in society, and whether it be an organized game or just a pickup game outside your house, we want to really encourage young kids to get outside, be active, and enjoy ultimately just being a kid. Our obesity rates are staggering. It's scary to see our young kids these days being inactive inside, playing video games in front of the television, and not being active, not being kids. I'm so excited to be part of the NPlay Foundation and help encourage young kids to live healthy, active lifestyles.
Thank you for watching my Pioneer and Superstar project.